Hello friends, today I'm gonna teach you how to make this delicious sweetened condensed milk donuts. They're so fluffy and soft. They're such a fun weekend project that the whole family is going to love. And they're filled with a delicious raspberry jelly. If you like this video, give it a like and subscribe to my channel. I post new videos every week. Place warm water in the bowl of a stand mixer or in a large bowl. Add about 1 tablespoon of condensed milk and stir. Make sure that this mixture is at about 110 Fahrenheit. This is very important because if it's too hot, it's going to kill the yeast. Now we're going to add the active yeast and mix to combine. Let this sit for 5 to 10 minutes until it becomes puffy and foamy. This is called proofing the yeast. Now add the eggs, the rest of the sweetened condensed milk, five cups of flour, and salt. Begin mixing all the ingredients with a spatula or with the dough hook of the stand mixer. Once almost all of the dry ingredients have been incorporated to the dough, add about half of the butter and continue to mix the dough to incorporate the butter. Add the rest of the butter and mix to combine. Continue to mix the dough on low speed with the dough hook or with a spatula. The dough should be coming together. If it's too wet, start adding a little bit more flour from the final cup that you set aside. If you're making this dough by hand, transfer it to the counter and start kneading it by hand on a floured counter. I'm just going to continue to use the KitchenAid mixer to knead the dough. If doing it by hand, it's going to take about 10 minutes, and if you're using the mixer, it's going to take about 8 minutes. During the kneading process, add more flour to the dough if necessary. Once you're done kneading, the dough shouldn't feel too sticky. It should feel very smooth and almost like a Play-Doh consistency. Coat a large bowl with oil and then transfer the dough to the bowl. Now let the dough rise at room temperature for 2 hours. After 2 hours, once the dough has doubled in size, we're going to punch it down, deflate the air in the dough, cover it back up, and put it in the fridge for a second rise. Then let the dough rest in the fridge for about 12 hours and up to 24 hours. The next day, remove the dough from the fridge and turn it into a floured counter. Use a rolling pin to roll out the dough until about 1/2 inch thick. Use round cutters to cut the donuts out of the rolled dough. It should be about this thick. I'm using a cutter that's just a little bit smaller than 3 inches in diameter. Grab the leftover dough and knead it gently to help it come together. Now we're just gonna let it rest for a few minutes to help the gluten settle. Place the cutout donuts on a baking sheet lined with parchment paper and lightly sprinkled with flour. Cover the donuts with a piece of plastic wrap or a clean kitchen towel. Now let's get back to our dough and let's roll it out until it's about 1/2 inch thick again. Cut more donuts out of the dough and place them on a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. Now with the remaining dough, I don't recommend making any more bigger donuts because at this point the dough is just gonna be overworked and the donuts won't be able to hold a nice shape. So you can use a small cutter, this is a 1-inch cutter, to make donut holes. And now with the leftover dough from the donut holes, I'm going to show you how to make quick apple fritters. They're super easy to make and you can make this with any bread or donut leftover dough. Simply cut the pieces of leftover dough into chunks with a bench scraper like I'm doing here. Then we're going to place thinly sliced peeled apples and mix with the dough. Let's just form layers of apples and dough. Now we're gonna let this rise along with the donuts, and we're going to fry it when we're frying the donuts as well. The donuts should rest for 60 to 90 minutes until they have puffed up. Touch a donut gently and your finger should form a very slight indent that won't spring back too fast. To fry the donuts, heat up some oil such as canola or vegetable oil or even shortening in a frying pan. When the temperature of the oil is between 350 and 360, you can start to fry the donuts. Place just a couple of donuts in the pan and do it so gently so the oil doesn't splash. Let the donuts fry for about 1 minute and then flip it to the other side. They should be golden and puffed up. Remove them with a slotted spoon to a plate lined with paper towels. Repeat with all the donuts, and also with the donut holes. And now we're frying the apple fritter. While the donuts are still hot, coat them in granulated sugar. And now I'm also going to add a little bit of cinnamon to the granulated sugar so we can roll the apple fritter in the cinnamon sugar mixture, which makes it so delicious. Now I'm going to show you how to make the quick raspberry jelly. The raspberry jelly should be made beforehand, so this way it's already cooled down by the time you want to fill the donuts. Place raspberry, sugar, and lemon juice in a small saucepan. Bring the mixture to a boil over medium-high heat. Then turn the heat down to medium and continue to cook for about 10 minutes, stirring occasionally. Meanwhile, dissolve the cornstarch in water. Once the raspberries have cooked down and broken apart, add the cornstarch mixture in and immediately begin stirring so it doesn't clump up. Cook the jelly for a few minutes, stirring. Once it's very thick, pour the jelly over a strainer to remove the seeds. It's very important to remove the seeds or any large pieces of fruit so they don't clog the piping tip when we're filling the donuts. Use a spoon to stir the jelly to make sure to strain out all the liquid. Now let the jelly cool down in the fridge for at least 2 hours, and it can stay in the fridge for up to 10 days. This is the piping tip that I'm using. It's a pastry cream piping tip, which is a long and thin piping tip. You can also use just a regular piping tip. Let's place the jelly inside of the piping bag. And then you can pipe the filling inside the donuts. These were absolutely delicious and so fluffy. Me and my family absolutely enjoy these donuts so much. For the full recipe, you can check the link down below on the description box. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!